Good day, viewers. My name is Oshmani. You're watching CTV, and today we'll be having one of our special guests on the project tagged the presidential race in Sierra Leone. And our guest for today is one special person that has a very big vision for Sierra Leone. Could you please introduce yourself, sir?
My name is Jonathan Sandy, fondly called JPJ. The presidential candidate for the National Unity and Reconciliation Party with slogan "Cut Across for Make Salon for We All."
You are in the race of the presidential.
Yes.
How did you get in the race?
It's been a long process. You know, the party I'm representing, the National Unity and Reconciliation Party, is a party led by youth. Now, it's a new party. Interestingly, my party was one of the last party that was registered just before Christmas. We were registered on the 20th December, almost the eve of the Christmas season. But before that, our party had existed like a civil society movement from 2013, an organic movement, which was really aimed at contributing to changing the political culture. But the party has been led by students, youth, and grassroots people. So it's a pleasure to have this kind of party that is unique, which is here to fight for the political rights of youth, students, and women, and those who have suffered from the war, those who have suffered from Ebola, and those who have suffered from flooding and war victims, more or less the vulnerable groups in society.
How many of you are in the presidential race of the 2018 election?
We are 16.
The national presidential debate. Were you part of the debate?
No, I was not part of that debate, and the criteria that was used for the debate, in our view, 10 of us, as you are aware, were against it, and was not. It was a deliberate. We think it's a deliberate act to close the political space and civic and electoral space for the people of Sierra Leone to make the choice, the political choice of their own. Imagine, for me, my candidacy represents someone who has vowed to fight for the political rights of students, youth, and women, and vulnerable groups. So when I was not on the debate, many of those students and youth who wants to see their right advocated, the right to education, the right to health, the right to jobs, the right to affordable housing, they are disappointed that, oh, our man who has stood for the battle for redemption, our voice, was not part of the debate. Our Constitution and the Public Election Act 2012 closed the political space for independent candidates for presidency in this country. And therefore you have the rigors to spend 2 or 3 years to even register a party here. Because it's only when you register a party, you belong to a political party, you can stand for presidency. Imagine if you have a beautiful vision, unlike what former President Soglo in Benin and people like Yaya Boni, Kirote and others, they were independent candidates. They came from movements, people who, students and youth, market women, Dankopo market in Cotonou, Benin, who had mobilized themselves through independence, and they were able to win elections. So I've seen in Africa that candidates can come as independent candidates as long as they have the vision for the majority of the people, they win. So in our constitution, it is deliberate, I think, past and current government, politicians, to close the political space for new generation of politicians. So we are going to challenge that. We know that this election is not an easy one, and I believe that as long as our policy, both in terms of foreign policy and domestic policy, is aimed at improving the life of people in this country and West Africa as a whole, I think this is what I stand for.
Thank you very much. We heard about the issue of two-sim, three-sim. Are you a three-sim or you are two-sim?
No, I'm not, because I was first chief of staff of this country, especially in charge of national security. Yeah. There is no way, having been acting national security advisor, chief of staff, managing the national intelligence requirement for this country for 7 and more years under the late President Tijan Kaba, I think the oath of secrecy I took for the people of Sierra Leone, I am not.
Thank you very much. The country Sierra Leone is of how many population?
7.2 million people.
7.2 million people.
Yeah. It's a small project compared to Lagos, you know. It's a small project. It's a small political project.
So for the 7.2 million people that...
7.2 million people.
Yeah. 7.2 million people that have been going through a lot of trauma from the war, Ebola, mudslide and all that. What is your vision? What is your manifesto for the nation to make it what the people want?
Yes, yes. You know, our manifesto or public policy priority are anchored into 3 to 5 priorities. The 3 major points, as I say, are anchored around the principle of national unity and reconciliation. That's the principle of good governance. These are one, that if we are here to fix the economy. Number 2, we are here to ensure that we fight for the political rights of the most vulnerable in society. That's the youth, the student, and what we mean, we were here to promote government social programs. We know that social programs such as education, health, affordable housing, and things that have to do with our job creation are the foundation for economic growth and development. So once we fix the economy, because as I said, I will go into the detail of that, but the third aspect is really to strengthen the rule of law, the justice and the national security system, and the fourth is about building public trust in the delivery of services through local empowerment. And those are the 4, and then anchored around that is strengthen our foreign policy relations with other regional organizations and that. This is what, you know, I haven't been regional director or CTA, chief technical for ECOWAS in terms of small arms and threat analysis based in Bamako for many years. And I am a son of the community, the ECOWAS community. So I know the advantage of having border security and development as part of a critical project, which Sierra Leone and ECOWAS and the African Union. And I'm very aware that the African Union has a huge border security, border management program, and which we have to ensure that in the world of interdependency, if Africa is going to survive and Sierra Leone is going to survive, one of the foreign policy issues I will promote is to ensure that the borders of Sierra Leone, both land, air and sea, are well secured, but linked within the Mano River Union space and then ECOWAS and the African Union. Because the nature and threat to our survival in Africa, in Sierra Leone, depend on a number of external threats such as terrorism, such as drug trafficking, small arms control. I am aware of those things. We cannot survive if those risks and uncertainty continue to affect our people. That's why I said, if I had been regional director for ECOWAS, where you the ECOWAS population in aggregate time is over 300 million. Imagine Nigeria alone. Yeah. You know, so it means that when I say Sierra Leone is 7.2 million, this is a small project. I can do that. I've been in East Africa, managed the whole, was part of African Union in terms of Chapter 8 partnership agreement of the UN to work on continental terrorism, something that has to do with our survival on the continent. Then I see Sierra Leone, if you give me the opportunity, I'm sure with the experience I've gained from both in my country, not only as National Security Advisor of Chief of Staff, but somebody who worked in the fishery sector. I was a fishery economics, so I worked on community development, health, public health unit and all this stuff. I can be a general in terms of managing the instrument of national power of this country.
Still in the studio with our presidential aspirants on the presidential race. Cut Across is the name of the party. That's the slogan that everybody knows with National Unity and Reconciliation Party, NURP, still in Sierra Leone. And we're gonna be talking to you on another issue that has to do with this race. We have about 16 people on the race. What gives you the confidence and the courage that in this race you can be the first, you can become the president of the new Sierra Leone that we're looking at?
Yes, I think compared to other candidates, my candidacy is unique in the sense that I understand the foreign policy needs of this country as well as the domestic policy needs. In other words, this country needs someone who can let Sierra Leone survive in a world of interdependency, regionalism and globalization. When I say I have an experience on domestic policy issues, I mentioned them. The domestic policy issues we want to address is one, how do we fix the economy? And how do we fight for the political rights of youth, students and women, the most vulnerable in society? Number 3, issues that have to do with national security, the criminal justice system and the constitution, which is under fire. As you know, our national constitution, a lot of contentious issues around the sacking of the former vice president, the issue around de-amalgamation policy. You share this country from 14 districts to 16 without going through referendum. Issues around dual citizenship you just mentioned, the diaspora voting right, and some of the structures that we have now, which are state and democratic institutions, like the Office of National Security, the Anti-Corruption Commission, NACIS, the social insurance companies, things that have to do with the criminal justice system, the local councils were only done based on the LEONE Peace Agreement. And now we want to see that the new constitution, the 1991 constitution, we review that constitution through referendum, and we make sure that all those issues we want to advocate for, including those structures, are well embedded into new constitution. So therefore, with my experience both nationally and internationally, I'm confident that I'm the only candidate who has worked for ECOWAS, who has worked for the AU, the United Nations, and understand the workings of international financial institutions such as the World Bank and the UN and the African Development Bank. And when we talk about foreign policy, this is what it means. It's a simple linear equation. It's regionalism plus multilateralism. So when it comes to regional understanding, whether it's the Mano River Union 15 protocol or the ECOWAS protocols and treaty, I've been part of the community. I work for the community as well as work for the United Nations on several issues, which means that do I understand how those institutions work? We cannot survive with those institutions. Number two, I worked for village level down to State House as a national security advisor. Now, when we say national security, it's about really how do you secure the economy, the environment, the political, the military, as well as social. It's a whole range of things. That's why I say with 7.2 million people, having worked with ECOWAS alone, 300 and something million people on the African continent, I think given the opportunity, I have the ability and skill to make rational executive decisions on behalf of the people of Sierra Leone.
Thank you very much. The campaign is ongoing, and it's only the two major colors we've been seen around that the people refers to as the Alusign and Alasign.
Yes, yes.
What strategies do you put in place for your own campaign that could make it really shaking?
I know that, you see, political campaigns, unlike the 60s and 70s, thanks to the media, especially the mass media, TV, radio stations, it has changed. And imagine we are less than 2 weeks down to the race. I mean, can you guess who is the next president, except you say me, Jonathan, sitting here. I will say I'm Jonathan Sandy, but perhaps I'm going to be Jonathan Good Luck of this country, because I will bring the good luck that we need in this country. I believe that in less than 2 weeks, you cannot clearly see out of the 16 candidates. Even my younger brother sitting there can tell that this is the candidate, this is the president. There are many reasons to that, but I believe that the approach we have all been using can help better. Even 1 week in politics is better. Although my party was only registered on the 20th of December, about 8 weeks from now, but see what we have done. You were in British Council yesterday. You listened to our manifesto. You listened to what we want to do for this country. We know the issues, the big issues that matter to the people of this country. It is not somebody who has not been part of the system, or both home and abroad, that you want to engage Sierra Leone into. So it's not about the mass rallies, because we hate, for example, we hate to give alcohol to youths. We don't want to give them marijuana. We don't want to give them kosombo, things that could get them drunk and they party on the street. We've seen rallies in 2007. When big rallies came out, at the end of the outcome, those rallies have not yielded. You've seen that in Liberia too. So rallies are gone. What we need to do now, people increasingly are watching the TV, the mass media, what we call strategic political communication, issues to do with social media, Facebook, WhatsApp, and that. That's what the strategy we are using more to bring our message out there. It might be late, but not late, and our message is hitting around, because we are the only party who is here to fight for the political right of these youths, the students, the women, and those vulnerable groups, as you saw, those who have suffered from Ebola, from Muslim and that. So if we keep pushing that, we have a niche, because this is 60 to 70% of our population, and within that bracket, they are vulnerable. They don't have the right to education, loan, they don't have right to health. If you look at many of the public health units, even the ambulances we had for the Ebola, they are gone. If you look at the affordable housing, we continue to suffer from mudslides and flooding every year, because everybody's building everywhere without government regulating the permit. Why should we be giving permit for people? Why should we be selling land instead of we build affordable housing? So we want to make sure that for Shelter is going to be a priority for us. Make sure every Sierra Leonean, through the mineral resources you have, the wealth of this nation, we distribute that through shelter and everybody is happy. Go to Abuja. I want to be, the part of the agenda I have in terms of affordable housing, the political rights of our people, is to have another Abuja. We have another Abuja where, you know, when Abuja project started, if you don't start big, we don't get there. When you have Lagos as the economic capital of Nigeria, and then you have Abuja as the political capital, it is high time that we move our capital city. This city is congested. Let's see what is happening. Yes, let's leave Freetown as our economic capital, for tourism, for everything that we do, and shift our political capital like Abuja is doing in the middle of Sierra Leone, where Yile, Mashaka, and all those places could be our part, because we have the wealth of the nation. If the Nigerians could use their oil money to ensure that they rebuild Abuja, which every one of us is the capital city of West Africa now, we can do the same in Freetown here. So this is not a joke. I think with the agenda we have, the strategy we are campaigning with, one, focusing on student and youth, that we are here, our party is about you, just like Julius Malema is doing. We want to make sure that our youth are not cliques and gang. This is the message. So we are using both the media, we are using mass media, we are using social media. Above all, since we are a civil society movement before, we are using those existing structures where students and youth on campuses, on things. Tomorrow, for example, will be our day with one of the major political parties going around to campaign, but our strategy, they'll be rallying tomorrow, or what we've decided to do, we'll go house to house door campaign. We did that when we were civil society. In March, April, during the voter registration process, our youth were funded countrywide to go out as campaign volunteers to register, to advocate for people to come out to register.
The election, from the way you view it, how violence-free is the election going to be?
You know, it's an interesting question. There are 16 political parties and candidates, and from the early warning signs, for somebody who is a national security and regional security expert, and I've also worked on election-related violence. In fact, in the last 2 or 3 months, I was in Abuja. I chaired one of the sessions between ECAS and ECOWAS, where we look at preventing electoral-related violence. And what I see in terms of the early warning, I'm not privy to the intelligence services now. They may close what we call covert information, but the signs are clear that there's increasing tension. There's acquisition, counter-acquisition, confrontations are mounting. And I see that the election will not go free without violence, because there is one important factor I would like to mention, that is the use of political vigilantes, you know, which is becoming typical not only in Nigeria or Ghana, but now is showing. No one is knowing that. If you look at some of the candidates, the 2 major parties, most of our ex-combatants who were in the army, who were in the civil defense forces, who were in the RAF, had taken sides. They are behind some of those parties, and they have not seen the peace dividend. They think this is a return time for them to have a candidate of their own, and therefore when you look behind the main opposition and the ruling, you will see the West Side Boys, you will see MPRC boys, you will see other vigilantes there and the Kamajos, I mean what I mean the civil defense force. So they are in disguise. So one of the sources of tension that you will see is the use of political vigilantes from those past DDR process, reform of the army, and that they will come back into the political space to support some candidates. And that is my fear. If we don't have a manner in which we have no code of conduct, no regulation that can say we will avoid using, we as candidates will avoid employing or using political vigilantes who, as you know, I mean, take the case of George Weah and the politics in Liberia. We've suffered from that. We are not far from war. It's not 20 years yet when the war is over. So my fear about political electoral-related violence is around those ends. That, and these guys, we are not clear, but the use of political vigilantes will emerge, and you will see open confrontation. And so far, the National Electoral Management Body are doing their best. But in terms of election security management, we need to really strengthen the early warning system, especially through the Office of National Security, my former colleagues. They need to put their eyes on this. Intelligence services need to be picking the early warning signs. But the one particular one they need to really look into is how we as presidential candidates and political parties, how do we ensure that the use of political vigilantes. What I mean, former combatants will not come into the space, and in disguise they are behind many of these candidates. Let us go back to the legitimate police, Sierra Leone police officers, which will be requested to deploy to guide some of us in our houses, in our premises, and to the ones we can have ECOWAS to deploy not only civilian personnel, observers, but also think about police and military observers like we did in Togo at some point, we did in the Gambia, and we've done in Liberia at some point again, where we had a mix of not only civilian observers, but military and police. Because as you continue to notice, the lack of public trust in us as a Sierra Leone police, because they think that they can side certain candidates. And if that is the case, then there is a sense of violence. Because I think there are two major scenarios here. No one is going to get 55% first round. Even myself, I'm sure, out of 16. But going to second round, are we going to see negotiations taking place? If not, are we going to see some candidates and parties accusing the Electoral Management Body, the Integrated Security Sector plan, that the process of rigging, they will not accept the result, and they will end up in the Supreme Court, and then there could be some counterproductive act. That's the way I see it.
All right, if I may ask, your party, do they have any other aspirants except from presidential aspirants?
Yeah, we do have local. In fact,
Candidates?
we have local councillors. We have the youngest local councillors. Some of them are students. They are still in college. But then Makeni, if Hassan is there, if you have Pamaka, you go to Karina, especially in the north, and then in the south we have a good reasonable number of local councillors. I'm praying that they do, and I'm sure they are very quality people. And then we have members of parliament, Joseph Sisi and others. I'm sure within the shortest possible time, less than 20 days, since we were registered, we were able to feed in reasonable number of local councillors. And that's the beginning, because the way when we talk, we want to advocate for the political right of students and youth and vulnerable people. Doesn't stop with me alone. It's about feeding to the local councils and decentralization policies, so that when it comes to fiscal decentralization, the delivery of basic services are done within those structures and institutions.
I think the last but not the least, I would like to confirm from you, all over 10, what can you rate the confidence of you becoming the next president of Sierra Leone? All over 10.
I think I will go for now, first round, I think 9 over 10. I'm very sure that will happen. I will not want to say 10 over 10 because I'm very aware we are 16. I'm being reality check. But so far, the work we have done, I think there's opportunity there that if we can't do the first round, definitely in second round, we should have the opportunity to be there, because we have the most solid platform in terms of advocating for the political right of the most vulnerable. You know, the right to education, the right to health, and the right to affordable housing, and graduates with jobs, which matters more to people. We also want to see that we give you a new Sierra Leone where we will strengthen the rule of law, we strengthen the criminal justice system to deal with corruption, and the national security system, because we have a number of cliques and gang assassination happening, and deliver a new constitution for this country. My fellow citizen, I'm here as your former chief of staff and now your presidential candidate, someone who had worked on national security issues for this country. I know there are increasing threats to our election in terms of election-related violence. I want, on behalf of my membership and the people of Sierra Leone and the security sector in general, to leave this with you. And on behalf of my party, the National Unity and Reconciliation Party, we want you to vote me in. But go out to vote, not in a manner to create violence. We want it to be a free, fair, and transparent election, an election free of any political violence, no talking on that. And I hope and I wish you a blessed day.